Hey there, and happy Tuesday. Thank you so much for making the time to catch today's replay. Today, I'm going to be talking about how to know if you are ready to hire a copywriter or graphic designer. We're going to be talking about how to know when you're ready, what some of the mistakes are that I want to help you avoid, and how you can get prepared to get the very best results. Now, for those of you who don't know me or don't know me well, my name is Karie Price. I'm a brand messaging coach, helping ambitious service-based business owners find and own the words to stand out, be heard, and make your message roar. Now, whether you are joining me live or catching the replay, what I would love to know is, have you been thinking about hiring a copywriter or graphic designer? And if so, what is it that why do you feel like you're ready for that? And if you've already in the past experienced working with a copywriter or graphic designer, what was your experience like? How far along were you in your business? What did you start with when you outsourced that work to bring on those people? And what kind of results did you get? Now, the reason I ask is a lot of people have differing opinions on when the right time is and when you should look to hire a copywriter or graphic designer. And I'm going to actually break that apart into two different there's going to be pros and cons of when to bring in the copywriter and when to bring in the graphic designer. Hey, Linda, thank you so much for joining me live. But let me talk for a moment first about the copywriting. And one of the things I hear, I won't say a lot, but pretty frequently from people that I talk to, is that they've hired copywriters in the past and they got it back. They invested hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars, and it didn't feel right. And so they shelved it, and that was wasted investment for them. And so now they are nervous and apprehensive about how to take on a copywriter or why the copywriting was so off, right? Hey, Veronica, good morning. Thank you so much for joining me live. Linda says, yeah, I've hired both at some point. I didn't want to do everything. Some were great and some were just okay. Yeah. Okay. Really good. Veronica hired a copywriter for her first sales page for her first group program. Veronica, what was that experience like for you? Hey, Victoria, so good to see you. Thank you for joining me live today. Yeah, so Linda, when you said some were great, some were just okay. So one of the things I hear is I'm starting to say, people make this investment maybe with copywriting and then they don't feel like it's right. Like, oh, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound like me. So they shelve it. And so that's, money that they've invested that they now are gun shy about hiring a copywriter again, or, how they're really going to get a handle around their marketing copy. Okay, Linda says, copywriting is tricky. I was looking for someone to write like me, happy, upbeat, clear, and it was not easy. Awesome. We're going to talk about that today. Veronica said she was wonderful. I still had to edit, but it was great groundwork. Awesome, Veronica. I'm going to guess that there was a reason why you had such a successful experience with her, which we're going to chat about. So one of the things that the reason why I think some people who, when they hire a copywriter, turns out it doesn't feel right. Veronica says, she wrote well. I injected my personality. Yeah. Okay. That's key. Awesome. One of the reasons why I think when people hire a copywriter that they have problems with it is they do it too soon. I actually don't recommend that you hire a copywriter in the early days of your business. You need to hone your marketing message. You need to know how you sound, your brand personality, your brand vocabulary, all the things that I talked to you guys about in defining your brand message, so that a copywriter can take that and knows how to be consistent, knows how to sound like you, feel like you, put out a consistent message, right? So oftentimes people delegate that responsibility because they feel like, well, I don't know how to write. I don't know how to make my message compelling, relatable, one of a kind for my market. So I'm going to hire it out to a copywriter, and then you give them the power to try and shape your brand message for you. You're hoping that they'll shape your voice. And oftentimes it doesn't feel right. It's not in alignment. It doesn't have your personality in it. It's not the way you would talk about it. It's the way that the copywriter presents it. Now, it's not always the copywriter's fault that happens. Victoria says, yeah, I agree. I want it to sound like me. It absolutely should. Every piece of content that you put out there has to have a consistent, reliable message. It should not be noticeable that you wrote it or someone else wrote it for you, because your message has to be able to be consistently delivered, right? So one of the things is, if you do it too early, it's because your message isn't developed enough. People are, again, I think it comes from people feel like, I'm not a good writer. I don't know how to speak to my ideal client in a compelling way. So I'm going to turn that over to a copywriter. And now, I'm not saying that that there aren't copywriters who can't do it. You're going to pay for it though, because ultimately what that copywriter has to do to really help you is they have to be developing your brand message, which is a very different activity than taking a brand message and applying it into marketing, whether that's a sales page or social media content, your website, whatever it is they're writing. They have to have something to know that it's going to fit in with your overall message and brand, right? So those are a couple of mistakes that I see happen. We're going to talk about how to better prepare for working with a copywriter. Now, the same thing holds true for a graphic designer. Some would argue to a lesser extent, but a graphic designer's job is to help you bring your message to life visually. And what I see a lot of people do is they start with the visual. They start with, I need a logo, colors, fonts, I need a look and feel, right, to stand out. But the best graphic designers will want to make sure that is in alignment with your overall brand message, particularly your brand personality. And if you don't have that fully developed, what they create for you might be based on what you personally like or don't like, or what you see other people do. You're like, ooh, I really like their look. I'm inspired by that. Go in that direction. In fact, I know a lot of designers, website designers are the same way, where they tell you, they'll say like, send me, links or images, screenshots of other brands that you're inspired by. Well, chances are you're drawn to them for a specific set of psychological reasons. There's a lot of psychology in visual design, colors and fonts and layouts. A good designer knows how to infuse a lot of personality in every design element that they choose. But if you're basing it on these are things I like and not whether it's something that is going to visually represent your message, then you might be doing that too soon, because now you're going to be out of alignment, right? They're going to see your image, whatever it is you're putting out there, but they ultimately are going to read the words or they're going to hear you speak. And if that's not in alignment and there's a disconnect, you create confusion in people's minds. You don't show up reliably with a consistent message. Confused people don't buy. So just like you want to be careful not to hire a copywriter too soon, and I actually think the first 1 to 2 years in your business, you need to do as much of your own copywriting as you can, because that's going to help you hone your message. Now, I do believe you need to work on your message first. That makes that process faster and easier, but you need to know how that's going to work, how that's going to flow, and how people are going to respond to that. Same thing with your graphic design. When you invest in that, and by the way, for both of these copywriters and graphic designers, you get what you pay for. I know that when the beginning of your business, you're bootstrapping a lot, and you don't have a lot to invest in some of these things, but these are foundational things that are helping to position you in the mind of the market, that are helping you to stake your claim and establish yourself as an expert. And think about your words and your visuals they're working for you 24/7, right? This is the employee that is out there working for you nonstop. You can put content out there and you can go to bed, and your content and your message and everything that represents that message is working for you all the time. You want to make sure that you're investing in that so that that is as effective for you as it can be. Veronica says, yeah, I agree. Do your own writing. I didn't hire mine until almost 1.5 years after. Yeah, you've got to get really clear on your own message to get the best results. Now you can do it sooner, but just about everybody that I talk to who has struggled with outsourcing copywriting too soon, it turned out they didn't use the copy that was written for them. Okay. Evelata, hi, so good to see you. Thank you for joining me live today. She says, sounds like great advice here. I'm about to get on a call with a client to help him write a great story. Hopefully he'll be there. You're saying hi and bye. And yes, alignment is everything, as Esther Hicks would say. Yeah, totally. Okay, so how do you know that you're ready to outsource, to bring in however you want to work with a copywriter or a graphic designer? And that you're prepared to get the most out of that investment. Copywriters and graphic designers are two super powerful key resources for your business, if brought in at the right time and if given the right information so that their jobs can be easier and they can deliver you outstanding results. Okay. So the first thing, let me phrase it, let me do it backwards. You're not ready to hire a copywriter or a graphic designer if you are not super clear about who it is you serve, your ideal client, what their pains, problems, struggles are, how you uniquely help them, and why they care about that. You need to get a handle on these parts of your message, and these are 4 of the elements of your message that you need to get super laser focused on, because that shapes and drives everything that you're trying to communicate. It controls and shapes the words that you use and the words you don't use. And there's very specific reasons why you would put words on your do not use list. It's going to help you shape and control your brand personality, how you want to show up. And like Veronica mentioned, she needed to go back and infuse more of her personality into the copy. If you have that well defined and you have been writing from that perspective of your brand personality, it's easier for the copywriter to step in and be more in alignment and more consistent with your brand personality. And you need to know what your value proposition is. What is it that makes you unique? Why people are going to choose you? Why they care about anything that you're going to put out there? And you need to make sure that you have your one-of-a-kind way of talking. Imagine hiring a copywriter or a brand designer and they work with a lot of people in your industry. And there's benefit to that when they focus on a vertical. So let's say you're a health coach and you decide that you want to work with a copywriter who works with health coaches. Well, she understands your market, he or she understands your market, understands your industry, and that's an excellent thing, right? You don't have to do a lot of explaining about the basic elements of what you're trying to talk about. However, they are writing for a lot of people who do the similar work that you do. You better arm them with your one-of-a-kind message so that what they produce doesn't sound like everybody else that they're writing copy for. Because it's probably similar elements. You're talking about similar pains. You're speaking to similar markets, unless you have a focused niche vertical, in your own business. And even then, you need to make sure that you tell this copywriter, I talk about this way and I don't talk about it that way, even though everyone else talks about it that way. You have to arm them with your one-of-a-kind way of speaking about what you do. And if you don't know how to do that, if you don't know how to position yourself, if you don't give them the words that relate to your ideal client, it's your job to know your ideal client better than anybody else. It's not your copywriter's job to know your ideal client. It's not your graphic designer's job to know your ideal client. It's your job to know that and know how to communicate the key information about that ideal client to them so that they've got the parameters to work within. They know how to bring your message to life in their avenue, whether that's in words or visual, to be consistent, speak to, and be relatable to that ideal client. So if you don't have those things in place, you're not ready to hire a copywriter or a graphic designer. Now, one could argue that you could invest in a good enough starting point, and you have to start with something, right? A lot of people might start doing, keep their graphics very simple, maybe choose a color, make sure you've got something that's consistent in how you're showing up, and know that you will evolve it. Know that you will rebrand, right? A lot of people talk about rebranding. Don't be scared of that. Companies, your brand will evolve multiple times in the lifespan of your business. Every time you get more clarity about your ideal client, your value proposition, what you do, why they care, how you talk about what you do, and you massage and tweak and evolve your own message, that's technically a rebranding. It doesn't have to be a giant overhaul. It can be a tweak, a modification, an evolution. This is going to happen in every stage of growth in your business. So yeah, you might start with good enough, but know that if you really want to own your market and you want to be seen as a reliable expert, you have to make sure you're really clear on how to show up with every piece of content, with every image and visual that you put out there. And over time, you will likely need to invest with a professional graphic designer and a professional copywriter who can take your message like totally to the next level, right? Yeah, Linda, you're absolutely right. With Canva, totally a possibility. You can start with images on by yourself so that you have something to put out there. Now, graphic designers watching this video are cringing a little bit that I even recommend that, because you know what, by the way, like I don't recommend even investing in Fiverr. I know that's going to make a lot of people uncomfortable. If you can't invest with a graphic designer who can help you create a professional image, then keep it super basic. Do it yourself with Canva. Get your business off the ground. Hone your message so that it attracts your ideal clients, and get yourself to the point where you can pay to have a professional graphic designer do that work for you. Veronica says, I had to rebrand last year because my business model had evolved and I needed my brand to represent that evolution. Absolutely. And Veronica, you handled that so smoothly. You let people know it was coming and why, and you rebranded. And in reality, sometimes you don't even have to go through that so much. Like, you just evolve. You let it happen and people will notice it. They will resonate with it more as you put your new brand out there. But yeah, Veronica's business model changed. You have to evolve your message. You hear a lot of people talk about the things that you do to get your business to 6 figures are not the same things that you need to do to get to 7 figures. Would you guys agree with that? Like, the activities that you do to get your business up and ramped up to hit your first 6 figures are very different activities than what it takes to get you to 7 figures. The same holds true in your message. Now, I believe that you can build the base foundation that will carry you through those evolutions. But what gets you to 6 figures? In that process, you're learning more about what works and what doesn't work in your message. And by the way, chances are when you're trying to move from 6 figures to 7 figures in your business, you're up-leveling your business. That's an indicator. It's time to rebrand. And oftentimes you're up-leveling the clients you're trying to attract. So maybe while you're trying to hit 6 figures, your packages, programs, offers, your services are appealing to a level of business owner. Let's just, for the sake of argument, say you have $1,000 offering, right? So the people that appeal to $1,000 offer and that gets you to 6 figures, you have to get a lot of people for your $1,000 offer to go to 7 figures. So what a lot of people do is you start up-leveling your services. You're creating advanced coaching programs, or you're creating masterminds or intensives, things that are maybe $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 investments for people. The way that you speak to those people, your message to make it relatable to those people is going to be different than the message that is appealing to the people for your $1,000 offer. Does that make sense? Linda, it's not the option, it's an option. I don't know what that's referring to, Linda. I'm sorry that I didn't catch that as I was talking. Let me know what that's referring to. All right, Veronica says you start with a DIY with Canva, and then when you hire your designer, they can get a sense of for what you like and love. Yes, and it's not just important what you like and love. I mean, you have to be able to embrace your visual brand. Don't get me wrong. But it's also what your ideal client, your market is going to embrace, what's going to position you differently from everybody else. Especially when you start out using Canva and some of their templates, you'll notice a lot of people's images look similar. Your graphic designer's job is to make sure that they separate you from looking like everybody else. Just like my job when I work with my clients is to help separate you from everybody else and how you show up with your message. How to make sure that you are relatable and you don't sound like anybody else. You're truly one of a kind, right? Veronica says, yes, expanding your offers, up level your message. Amen, Karie. Yes. So this is something to be aware of. I mean, messaging work. I shared this in last week's Facebook Live as well. In my dream world, everybody develops their messaging foundation out of the gate before they really start doing a lot of marketing, because your marketing is so much easier and so much more effective when you have it. But I know that's not reality. People don't do it, and that's okay. But even in my dream world, if and when people do that, it's not a once and done activity. You need to make sure that you're constantly revisiting it, fine-tuning and tweaking it anytime you have a triggering event that causes you to evolve your message to keep up with your business. Remember, your message is strategic and foundational to your business. Everything you do informs your message, and your message informs everything in your business, from your service offerings and how you talk about your services, what you deliver for your clients. All of that is really integrally integrated with your message, right? They feed each other. I have a client right now. She is getting through her initial foundational messaging, and she's revamping her content, including her signature program. What she learned after getting her messaging foundation in place, and it is like goosebumpy good, you guys. She learned more about her ideal client and what they really need, what they're really struggling with, and how to speak to it, that she now is, I won't say revamping, I'll say evolving her signature program to make sure that that's weaved throughout. Because oftentimes what happens when you create an initial service offering, you are putting together what you think people need, what you want them to know. But when you step back and do the messaging work and really understand your ideal client to the level of depth that I help my clients get to, you'll recognize how your own service offerings need to tweak and modify to deliver them even better results than they're already getting. So it is always in evolution. It is always being worked on. Now, I'm not saying you're revamping your message every day or every week, but I am saying you need to sort of watch for what the triggers are to know so you know what to watch for. Something's not resonating and I need to tweak it. And when I tweak it, bam, I start attracting more of that ideal client that I'm looking for. If you are putting content out there and it is not attracting the right client, your message is likely the problem. So you need to figure out what that is so you can tweak that message to attract the right people. Oh, okay, Linda, thank you for clarifying your earlier comment. Canva is not the option, it's an option. Totally agree. And it's a great option for people who aren't yet at a place where they can hire a graphic designer. The fact that we have tools like that make it easier for people to have images to go with their posts, right? Because we know that images get people's attention and that to help them stop and read your words. So you're absolutely right. And yes, you want to be one of a kind. Absolutely. Okay. So when you get to that point, you very clearly know who it is you are trying to attract. You know how you speak to them. You know you're ready now to get some copywriting help. Because let me tell you, a good copywriter is worth every penny. And I will just say, both for copywriting and graphic designers, you will get what you pay for. Now, sometimes you'll find somebody who's maybe up and coming. So they're, trying to build a portfolio and they've got some good natural chops and they need some experience and you can get a good deal. But when you get to various points in your business and you are going to invest in someone who's just knocks it out of the park on sales pages, for example, you will get what you pay for. So just know that with anything in your business, you get what you pay for. Now, that doesn't mean that some people undercharge and they should be charging a whole lot more for what they do. And so you're getting a good deal. And that doesn't mean that there's some people that maybe charge more than the perceived value you get. But it's our job, your job, and my job as service providers to make sure that we help our potential clients know the benefits that we give them, improve the value, right? That's our job. That's what marketing does for you. It's establishing you in people's minds. That's your brand. Remember, your brand is your reputation as perceived in the mind of the market, lives in their brains. Veronica says, I agree with the Canva option and the graphic designer to stand out. Love it. Yes, absolutely. Cool. So when you're ready to invest in a copywriter and or a graphic designer or both, here's some things that are going to help make that experience easier, save you time, which saves you money, more effective so that you get the best results and you don't end up with something that you end up shelving, you don't feel that's right, you can't get behind, you don't fully embrace, right? That you don't want that. If you're going to make this investment, you need to make sure it's going to fully embody everything that you believe about what you stand for, which comes out of your brand message. So when you get to that point, if you don't have it already, make sure you have a fully documented brand message usage guide. So I help my clients create that with all of the elements that a copywriter, graphic designer needs to know about your brand so that they can bring it to life. One of my clients just launched her gorgeous brand new website. So all new messaging, all new branding based on the work that we did together. And she shared with me that it was the easiest copywriting experience she's ever had. And the copy is stellar. It's on point. It's consistent. Sounds like just throughout. And she said it took so little of her time because she handed the copywriter the brand message usage guide, which had everything that like you need to know about the brand, right? We got it all out of her head. We got all the right words around it, got it all documented. And now the copywriter can run with it. And it took her very little edits to get that ready for an entirely brand new website with she does the same work, but her message is a complete pivot. Like it's not even an evolution. She fully rebranded around a new brand position. Like it drove everything. And she said it was the easiest experience she's ever had working with a copywriter. And I think she's been in business 5 years. So she's invested with copywriters before. She is a person who helps you outsource and put systems in place. So she is very conscious of things that do not need to be done by her, and she outsources, and copy is one of the things that she's outsourced for a while. And that was the easiest it's ever been for her because she has it fully documented, right? Saved her time and money. She didn't need to spend time with that copywriter billing her hourly to let the copywriter ask her a bunch of questions and like, hey, what do you think about this draft? And now let's rewrite it. Totally saved her time and money. So that's my best piece of advice for you. And once you have that, when you start actually looking for the resource, first of all, referrals are a great way to find somebody that delivers good results, right? So reach out to people and ask for referrals on copywriters and designers. I have people that I could recommend depending on what you're looking for. So just like I encourage you to focus, I have a very hard time referring people to a copywriter or a graphic designer that says, I can do anything for anybody. Because I don't necessarily believe that to be true. I believe that you know that maybe you have a particular style or a particular kind of client that you can ideas flow more easily. You can't know about all industries, especially as a copywriter, right? Because most copywriters ultimately end up focusing in an industry because they need to be able to very quickly get in there and not write stuff that doesn't make sense for that industry, right? So if you're looking for something specific, let me know, and I'd be happy to see if I have a contact that I can refer you to. Yes. Veronica says, don't believe I can do anything for anyone. I don't want to be anyone. Yes, Veronica, let me give it a big amen on that. Yes, you don't want to be anyone. You want to make sure that your copywriter can take your one-of-a-kind message and take it up a notch. If you're going to invest in a copywriter, it's because you want to know, like, first of all, they know what they're doing. They know how to write copy that converts. They know how to infuse your message. They're going to take your brand message usage guide and actually use it, not write what they want, but write what's really going to serve your audience. And you don't want to be just anyone. Linda says, yes, I know someone who knows someone. It's not one size fits all. Absolutely. Nothing should be one size fits all. You guys, I talk to you about that all the time too. If you're trying to be everything to everybody, you're actually speaking to no one. If you can't get focused in on here's who I help, the problem that they have, why I'm the best fit for them, and what I do, why they care. If you can't get focused and targeted, you're putting out this really diluted message that nobody is picking up on. So people tend to think, well, if I focus too much, I'm leaving money on the table. Like all these people, I'm sort of saying I don't work with you. But if you put out a really vague message, nobody is saying, hey, that's me. I want to work with you. Because you sound like everybody else. You have a diluted message and it doesn't serve you, right? So it doesn't serve your graphic designer or your copywriter to do that either. So when you're ready, make sure you're looking for somebody who understands you and your business, who will take the information that you have, knows how to run with it, get referrals, get recommendations, and find out from the people who are referring to you what they liked about the resource. Be careful of like, oh, well, they let me do as many revisions as I wanted. Here's my take on that. If you are hiring a copywriter or a graphic designer that is worth the salt or their weight in gold, right? If they are worth it, they know how to take what you have. This is on you. You have to give them that messaging foundation. But if you do that, they will know how to take it, ask the right questions for any clarifications, give you something that is in total alignment with that, and explain to you why. If they say, and I'll do as many revisions as you want, you're basically ending up doing your own copywriting or graphic design. You're in the design, in the agency world, you become the art director or the creative director. If you're going to hire these people, you want to make sure they are professionals and know what they are supposed to do for you, and they're not just an order taker. Because unless you're a copywriter or a graphic designer, you don't know how to direct that. And you may as well do it yourself in Canva or write it yourself, right? So just, be asking for why people enjoyed working with them. Is it because they took what I had, what I got back, exceeded my expectations, nailed exactly the message I was trying to communicate, spoke to my ideal client, took very little edits or tweaks from me? Those are the kinds of comments you want back when someone's referring a resource to you. Okay, so be thinking about that. Let me just check my notes, see if there's anything else. What other questions do you have while I'm just checking my notes? And thank you guys so much for sharing your experience. Veronica, I'm so glad you found somebody who could get so close for you and you had to work in a little bit of your personality. Hopefully, if you continue to work with that copywriter over time, they're taking that feedback and internalizing that personality. So the next piece of content they write for you takes very little of your edits. Now, they're probably, it'll be a very long time in your business before you don't review content before it goes out. You should always review content because you're representing your brand and you want to make sure that it is alignment. It's speaking how you want to speak, the message that you want to communicate, and right. So you're going to review everything before it goes out. Okay, Linda says I covered so much. Okay, good. So I'm assuming I answered most of the questions around that. If you think of anything else, though, drop that in the comments below. If you're watching the replay, let me know if you've worked with a copywriter or graphic designer before and what that experience has been like for you. And if anything from today's video would help you have a better experience now or in the future. If you have any questions, yeah, even on the replay, drop those in the comments. I will come back and answer every single one. Veronica, I am with you. Veronica says, I would want to always review. Yes. I am not sure there will ever come a point in my business that I would not review every single thing that goes out under my brand, because that's your reputation. It takes a long time to build trust. It's about showing up reliably every single time. And if you get a piece of content that goes out that is not in alignment with your message, trust is hard to build and easy to break. So make sure that everything is consistent so you are reliably seen as the expert every single time. And that, yes, Veronica, it's your reputation. Even with folks, they are an extension of me, especially with folks. Yes, Veronica, absolutely right. Every person that represents you, does any work for your business, internally or externally, they are representing your brand. And for most of us, especially as solopreneurs, or where our name, us, we are the brand, they are representing you, and you want to control and shape that. You totally can control and shape it, but that means you need to protect that like a hawk too, right? Because ultimately, what are we all after? We are all wanting to stand out in the market as an expert, be seen, sought after, I already said be seen as an expert, but respected as that expert, right? And how do we do that? We show up reliably. We make sure that everything we put out is relatable to our dreamiest clients with a one-of-a-kind message that doesn't sound like anybody else, which allows us to take action on that through our marketing, right? And I did these in backwards order, but that allows you to be reliably seen as the expert that you are. In other words, you need to make your message roar, and your message roars through your copy, through your graphic design as well. And if you don't believe that, then it's just time to stop and think about that, because all of that is building your reputation. It's all communicating the same message. Make sure that's all in alignment. Get yourself ready, because when you can invest in a copywriter or graphic designer, it allows you to exponentially increase your reach through your content and give you time to focus on serving the clients that you are attracting to your business. So I hope this was helpful. If you found this valuable, I'd appreciate it if you share it with your communities or anybody else that you think could benefit from this. Until next week, which I'll give you, I promised I'd start telling you guys what each week's topics are. Next week, I want to talk more about the difference between a course and a coaching program. Because I think there's some confusion sometimes what people are looking for when they are looking to invest in help. So we're going to break that down a little bit more next week. And until then, have a great week, and I'll see you then. Have a good one, you guys. Bye.